Now, I don't know about you, but for me personally, the first sign of insanity is delusion. Now, CEO Mary Barra has pledged to not give up General Motors' leadership position in the electric vehicle space.
We're not going to cede our leadership position to anyone.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. You are watching The Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans. I'm coming to you here from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to the channel again. It's awesome to see so many new subscribers coming on board recently. Have to give it a thanks to Sandy Munro for mentioning the channel, and welcome to all of you who have come over from Sandy Munro's channel this week. Now, Simon Alvarez, one of my favorite reporters for Teslarati, has reported recently, within the last 24 hours, that it appears that the idea of General Motors CEO Mary Barra being a leading force in the automotive sector's transition into electric vehicles is well enforced by the executive herself. Now, obviously, she was told that somehow General Motors were leading on electrification, and then in fact Detroit was a world leader on electrification, and then in fact GM was the reason that this happened in the first place. And I don't know when this happened, or nobody's told me. I mean, maybe someone would have to ask President Biden all these details that obviously I am not aware of. Please, if any of you know the answer to this question of when exactly General Motors became a leader globally in electrification and when exactly Detroit became leaders in electrification, please let me know, because I don't know when that started. Now, during a conversation with CNBC's Andrew Sorkin at the New York Times Deal Book Online Summit, kind of got the trifecta there, don't we? New York Times, CNBC, and Mary Barra from General Motors. Put those three together, and what do you get? Well, let's find out. At the summit, Barra declared that General Motors is the leader in the United States electric vehicle sector, even as she practically acknowledged that Tesla holds over 60% of the country's electric vehicle market today. So I'm not sure how those two things align in her brain. Somebody please tell me, because I don't understand. Now, the CNBC anchor's questions to the General Motors CEO were surprisingly tough. Over the course of their conversation, Sorkin asked Barra about GM's market cap as compared to Tesla, self-driving cars, US President Biden's Tesla snub during the White House Electric Vehicle Summit, the upcoming revisions to the country's EV incentives, and the idea of Tesla workers potentially earning more in a non-union workplace. That is a good question. Is that true? Potentially. More importantly, the CNBC host asked the CEO if General Motors could catch up to Tesla, since the veteran automaker currently holds 9 to 10% of the EV market, while the Silicon Valley company Tesla themselves own 63%. Now, this is what she said. Right now, General Motors, in terms of the electric vehicle market, have about 9 to 10% of the market. Tesla has about 63% of the market. 5 years from now, if you succeed, but everybody else has their own success in this space, what does that pie chart look like? Sorkin asked. Quite surprisingly, Barra responded by stating that General Motors is the leader in the United States electric vehicle sector today, as in right now.
We're not going to cede our leadership position to anyone.
Not in some imaginary future, but as in now. The CEO also noted that GM is currently number 2 in China's EV market. So, while it's true that General Motors has 8 to 10% of the market, if you skew the figures entirely, now the only way you can come to this conclusion is if General Motors claims sole ownership of sales of the Wuling Hongwan Mini EV, which they don't even manufacture. They only own 1/3 of that partnership. The other 2/3 go to SAIC and Wuling. Wuling actually make the cars. General Motors is just an investor, and they're claiming full ownership of all sales of the Wuling Hongwan Mini in China. That to me is dubious. Now, if Tesla did this, they would be panned by the mainstream media. So, saying that General Motors actually own 8 to 10% of the global electric car market is an enormous stretch. And saying that GM is a leader in electrification in China is also a big stretch. Now, while it's fantastic that they own 33% of the tri-venture between Wuling, SAIC, and themselves, in and of itself is definitely not a bad thing. In fact, it's quite a good thing. But saying that they own that all sales that come from Wuling are therefore General Motors, that to me is a sign of madness. Now, she actually said that GM is currently number 2 in China's EV market. So she's clearly claiming 100% of all those sales for GM. She didn't even say anything about Wuling or SAIC. Overall, Barra stated that she remains optimistic about GM's future in the electric vehicle sector. And she has no intention of conceding General Motors' leadership position to anyone.
We're not going to cede our leadership position to anyone.
Now, I talk about what I think General Motors, where they'll be in 2030, what their car sales will be, what that breakdown will be, in a video I just made about my predictions for 2034 overall market sales. I'll put a link in the description below to that video. Now, it's a long one. If you want to, you can fast forward and you can see my conclusions at the end. Well, we have said, just like we're the leader today, if you set aside, with the distortion that's happening with the semi shortage, we have been the leader in the United States. We have been number 2 in China for many years. I think when you get to wanting to get 50% of all EVs, you have to win customers that only drive one vehicle. They only own one vehicle. They depend on that vehicle every day. I have no idea what bush she's beating here. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, General Motors has brands that they trust. We have the highest loyalty rating. We have manufacturing plants that are ready to go. And so when I look at our ability to scale, to serve customers, I think we're incredibly well positioned. And we're not going to cede our leadership position to anyone, Barra said. Well, you can't cede that which you do not have. You can't cede that which you do not have. While the General Motors CEO statements may raise some eyebrows, considering its apparent disregard for the fact that 63% is larger than 9 to 10%, which they don't even have anyway, the narrative of GM being a leader in the electrification of the auto sector has been echoed, well, it's almost created, wasn't it, by the Biden administration itself. During his visit to General Motors factory Zero in Detroit, US President Joe Biden patted the executive on the back, stating that the CEO changed the story and that she electrified the entire automotive industry. I want General Motors to succeed. America needs Ford and General Motors to succeed. It's a good thing that they succeed. If you believe it on whether or not you believe it, it doesn't matter. It's not a good thing if they succeed and they're still selling ICE vehicles in 2030, but I don't think there's any chance of that happening. It's good if they succeed and they're selling purely electric vehicles in 2030, because that's the only way they're going to succeed if they pivot to that position. But this kind of delusion, this kind of rhetoric, if you were living in China or Europe and you heard this information, honestly, genuinely, what would you think? What would you think about the President of America? What would you think about the CEO of General Motors? You would have to think they're insane. There's no other possible conclusion to come to. And to me, I don't understand why they want to do this. Why General Motors thinks that saying this makes them look good. It doesn't make them look good. It just makes them look like they're mad. In the auto industry, Detroit is leading the world in electric vehicles. You know how critical it is, Mary? I remember talking to you way back in January about the need for America to lead in electric vehicles. I can remember your dramatic announcement that by 2035, GM would be 100% electric. You changed the whole story, Mary. You did, Mary. You electrified the entire automotive industry. I'm serious. You led, and it matters, Biden said. Now, what I want to know is what you think about these comments. Do you think they're healthy? Do you think it's logical to conclude that you're the best basketball team in the world when you're not in the top 10? Do you think it's logical to make those kinds of statements? Would you be comfortable as a shareholder of General Motors to hear your CEO making these kinds of statements, or would you prefer them to be more logical? Now, I personally really like this style of Herbert Diess. I think he's a phenomenal CEO. For long-time viewers of the channel, not that we've been here for long, just over 6 months, but for those who've been around for a while now, you know I'm a big fan of Herbert Diess, and I hope that Volkswagen fires him and that Tesla takes him. I mean, Volkswagen are just... The fact they haven't considered firing this guy means they lost my respect when they did that, when they made that move. I don't know what power structure is going on within Volkswagen. I know that there's certain different parties that wanted him gone because they're afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. But the reality is he is probably the best legacy CEO in the world. Not probably, definitely. And I think what he's saying about electric vehicles makes sense. He's recognizing the competition, he says, is Tesla and China. They're the primary competition right now. Not General Motors, Tesla and China. So one day, maybe, you never know, Herbert Diess will say, hey, Volkswagen, here's our new meeting, and we're, General Motors, they've done some great things and they are now the competition. Well, they're now one of our competitors. But right now, that is not the case. And within the next few years, highly unlikely. Now, hopefully, General Motors actually don't believe their own hype, or the hype that they've created for themselves, or the hype that Joe Biden is trying to create for them. Hopefully they can accept reality, because reality is a position you need to come from when you make things work. To actually make things and plan for the future, you need to come from a place of reality and perspective. And right now, General Motors are way behind in terms of actually electrifying the world, electrifying their own fleet. They need to start with their own fleet, and later on they can worry about electrifying everyone else in the world. Maybe then when they're coming from a position of strength, they can actually help others. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Am I being stupid? Am I just overrating? Am I exaggerating? Am I, maybe Mary's saying the right things here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.